Hey there tech fans, Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, I'd like to review another cool gadget that I think you're going to find pretty helpful. It's a motion sensing, battery powered LED convenience light that you can use pretty much anywhere in your house. It's made by a company called Topgreener, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because I've reviewed other products of theirs on the channel, and I use a ton of their gear around my house. I find that company to be very reliable and build some really nice products. Now I'll talk about what the light can do for you in a few minutes. I wanted to show you what comes with the kit first. So the light itself is obviously included in the kit. You get an instruction manual that talks about how the light works, how to put batteries in it, how to mount it, what the sensing zone is, all the things you need to know to use this thing correctly. They even include some screws if you want to mount this thing into a hard surface. You can also use the 3M tape on the back, so it's really easy to mount this thing. And then they include a warranty card. Now, what's interesting about this product, which you don't find in a lot of products like this on the market, is they give you a full 1-year warranty on it, and if you send this card back, you can extend it a full another year. So that means you get 2 years of use out of a light that's really inexpensive, but incredibly reliable. So that all comes as part of the kit. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the light before I get into how you use the light, how you lit up the batteries, and I'll show you how I'm using it in my home. I bought one of these just to test it out because there's always places in my house, inside of a cabinet, in the laundry room when I first walk in, parts of my garage are dark. So I like having a light that isn't on all the time, that I don't have to wire, with electrical wiring and all that complications that come along with that. Just something that I could put a couple of batteries in, stick up on a wall or underneath the cabinet, and have it turn on whenever I was in that area. So I bought one of these guys, tested it for a couple of weeks, and fell in love with it, then bought a bunch more because I've got them stuck up all over my house, because there's always dark corners that you need to illuminate on occasion, and I don't want to deal with wiring electricity in. So what I like so much about this light, and again, you might be thinking, Rick, how can you get excited about an LED motion sensing light? There must be hundreds of them on the market, and there are, but there are some differences you need to look for when you're considering which one you're going to buy, because there are some on the market that are really inexpensive and they seem like a really good buy until you consider some of the downfalls of the less expensive ones. So some of the things I like about the Topgreener, number one, it uses 3 AA batteries. They're easy to install, and on average use of about 10 triggers a day, which is really a high rate of trigger, you get about a year's use out of those batteries. So honestly, I expect that I'm hitting it maybe once or twice a day in certain locations. I might get 2 or 3 years out of the batteries, and that's really important because a lot of the less expensive ones will turn on their own. They'll turn on and stay on, so they're draining those batteries pretty quickly. And I've tested a bunch of these in my house and thrown a bunch of them out because they just don't work as advertised. I also love the fact that it's got a very wide 10-foot sensing area, which means if I get close to the device, well before I get to the dark area, it's turning on and illuminating that dark part of the house that, maybe over my stairs or in a cabinet. So it's very good for sensing. It's got a daylight sensor in it, which means it's not going to waste electricity or waste the batteries and turn on when it's bright enough for me to see in that area. It's only when it's dark where I actually need the light where it'll turn on. It uses a high durability LED light, which is something a lot of them don't. Some of the ones use incandescent lights, which draw a lot more current. They're really fragile, so they're not going to last as long. And it also casts a really nice broad beam, where a lot of the other ones that I've used are very narrow. They're almost like a flashlight beam, where you've got to position it exactly where you need the light. This one's got a really nice field of lighting, if you will, downstream. When it casts that light, it's nice and wide, so it illuminates quite a bit of an area. One other thing I like a lot about it, and maybe I'm just being picky on this, is I find that a lot of the less expensive ones, not this one, but some of the cheaper ones, cast an incredibly harsh light. So even though they're throwing light into that closet where you need to light up a pantry or something, it's really a harsh light, and I found myself squinting. This has got a 5000 K temperature of the light, which is a really nice, pleasant white light that'll light up that cabinet and not give you a lot of, those squinty reflections off of devices. So I like that an awful lot. One other thing I will say about this light, which again is different than some of the others, is that it's got advanced circuitry built into it where it uses the electricity or the battery current that's in the batteries very efficiently. Whereas a lot of the other lights, as the batteries start to get less full, when you start using the batteries, the light will dim. So what'll happen is you may use it for a year, but those last 3 months, it's dimmed so much that it's almost ineffective and you've got to change the batteries out. This one will work right up to the last electron that's in that battery and try and maintain as bright a light as possible. It doesn't decrease in light values. And I've had it in the house for a couple of weeks now, and I've on purpose gone out and triggered it a lot more than I would normally just to see if I'm seeing any decay in the brightness, and I'm not. So it's a really durable light. All right, so how do you use this guy? On the bottom, you've got a mounting plate. This would be mounted on a surface, say inside of a closet to the ceiling, and then you twist it and pop the actual light off. Now this can be mounted with 2 screws, which they actually include in the kit, through these 2 holes, or you can pull this 3M tape off the back and stick it up. I found in most cases I use the 3M tape. On occasion where I know it's going to be there for a while, I may actually screw it into the actual wood above me. Now this is sealed. Inside here's where the batteries and the circuitry are, and the way you change these batteries is you'll see little divots along the edge, and I'll do a blow up of this. But you basically take a screwdriver and just pop this back case off. It comes off just that easy. And then inside there, you've got the circuit board where the LED is mounted, you've got the sensor, you've got that control circuitry I talked about before inside there, and you've got a spot for 3 AA batteries. Now it doesn't come with batteries, and that's okay by me because normally when a product comes with batteries, they're not the greatest batteries. So I like to use fresh batteries and pretty reliable ones. These are Duracells. I like Duracell a lot. So you basically just snap the 3 batteries in just like I'm showing you. And then when you're done, you're going to want to put the cover back on. Now you'll notice that there's an arrow here, and then there's an arrow on the side right here. You want to match those 2 up. So once those are matched up, snap the back cover on, you're good to go. Then you'll also notice there's a lock and an unlock indicator over here. On the bottom of this, you've got a little indication there as well where you want to line those 2 up. So when you're locking this guy up, you want to make sure the stripe on the side of this marries up with that lock and unlock. And I'll show you how that goes on in a second here. There you go. So I'll do a blow up of this, but on that one edge, you've got a line right there. And again, when this is mounted on the ceiling, when the batteries are in it, it's going to be tight. So you just twist it, it pops right off like that, put it back up, twist it back on, and you're good to go. And again, you won't have to take that down very often. I've had mine up for about 2 months now, and I haven't seen any decrease in the light at all. And again, I've triggered it a lot more than I would normally, just to see if I could get it to the point where it decays, where the batteries no longer power it. Haven't had an issue with it whatsoever. So I like them a lot. They're not the cheapest LED motion sensor light on the market, but for me, I like to look at the longevity of a product. I like to look at the functionality of it. Also, you got to remember the batteries you're putting in here. There are 3 batteries in there, and if you go with a good set of batteries, those could be $1.50 or $2 a battery. They're $6 in batteries. So even though you're saving a couple of bucks on a less expensive motion sensor light, if you're changing batteries twice as often, or in some cases 3 times as often, you're wasting a lot of money on batteries. So they're not terribly expensive. And actually, if you buy a set of these, I've got links below on Amazon, you get a really good deal on 2 of them. So give them a look. And again, I like them a lot, and I love talking about technology that makes my life a little bit easier. I've used these all over my house, and I love them. I think they're just great. We've actually used them at the camper. I use them in the backyard, in the shed. I've got a couple in the garage. So for me, it's just the convenience of knowing that there's a light there if I need it. I don't have to go fumbling for a light switch or hit a button. It just turns on, and when I'm done, I leave, it turns off, and that's just really wonderful. So that's pretty much it. So again, it's a Topgreener motion sensing LED battery powered light. I've got links below if you want to go check it out on Amazon. I love putting clips like this together, so if you have any questions at all about anything I've covered with this light, it's a pretty simple product, but you may have a question, drop them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. And I'll have more reviews like this, so if you enjoy these kind of tech reviews, stay tuned to the channel or consider subscribing by hitting that button down there and joining the family, because we got a lot more tech coming, and I'm sure that if you're interested in this kind of stuff, this is the channel to watch. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, we'll see you soon.